going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. Welcome back
I'm
to
confident
the
on offense.
Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Rate 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Welcome back. We continue to raise money for NAMI, which is a support organization for people suffering from mental health issues. So make sure to share it out. Make sure to spread the good word. And yeah, a portion of what we make goes over to NAMI. But PayPal, it's a big week for us. How are you doing, my man?
It is a big week, Brad. It really is a big week. I'm doing well. Just trying to make sure I got everything, set before, big wedding day this weekend. So, yeah, I don't have too much on my plate. I just have to basically get my shoes all correct, get everything fitted. Because apparently I got wide feet, but I don't have long feet. Like I think I have the shortest feet in the family, honestly. Yeah, all you guys have like size 13, and then I got 9.5s. Like, what? How did that happen, Brad? But hey, I got wide feet, so it's in the it's length of my, I guess the width of my foot. But yeah. You have the important part, Brad.
Well, thank you. So for those that don't know, we are Blake and I are both standing up in a wedding. And so I'm best man, PayPal just a groomsman. But yeah, dude, I'll tell you, for those out there that have had to put together a maid of honor speech or a best man speech, kudos to you. Like I talk on a Bears show, and for work, I have to do public speaking. It's difficult because I need it to kind of be precise and like exact. So because of that, I need it exact. So I need to I don't want to read off my phone, so I've just been practicing getting it down. But yeah, it's only like 3 minutes. I don't want to have one of these long, drawn out best man speeches. So yeah, it's coming down, but it's exciting to celebrate the happy couple this weekend.
Yeah, it's always better. What I always think about, it's a lot better talking about something you actually care about. I could talk about Bears. I could for hours, but like. I just remember in school doing presentations, and actually I'd be all right, I gotta not memorize it, but make the note cards, that whole shindig about stuff you who knows what, like history of Europe or something boring.
Exactly. So we'll actually talk about something. I actually think that this is pretty interesting. It's not as boring as Europe. No offense to our European fans out there. But let's talk about the tight ends today. So we are going to be breaking down everything about the tight ends. We're continuing on our countdown to camp. Last time we talked about the linebackers. We're switching over to offense for the tight ends. And then next episode, we're going to be talking about the cornerbacks, so you don't want to miss out. So just like last time, let's break down the departures. And the big departures from last year, Ryan Griffin and Trevon Wesco. So not really big names. And also, too, we'll be breaking down tight ends and fullbacks today. We'll kind of add them in. But the only other person that I could really think of was, I remember this guy. There was James O'Shaughnessy from last year, too. Totally forgot he was on the roster. So if we want to count him as a departure, there's that as well. And also Ryzen John. He got cut before the season started. But PayPal, anything kind of stand out? Like, were you a Ryan Griffin fan at all? I don't think we talked much Ryan Griffin on this show.
Oh, I was a Ryzen John fan. I thought he was Ryzen John to the moon. He's like 6'9", like 270 of pure muscle. But yeah, Ryan Griffin, I liked him. It was one of those guys, I think he was brought in kind of, as a veteran, like just kind of to show the young guys in the room kind of how to do things. Like I thought he was kind of a positive add to the young locker room. Like we were just talking about Cole Kmet. I totally forgot. He turns 24 this year. So last year he was 22, 23. So he's still a very young player with, and then also with Chase Allen was also in the locker room. Jake Tonges was. So he kind of gave that veteran presence. Didn't really see him ever getting many stats. I think he got like 4 receptions. 4 receptions for 26 yards. Didn't really have any crazy highlights, but not a bad blocker, can catch the ball.
Yeah.
Veteran leadership in the room.
See, I actually almost like flip it. You talk about Ryan Griffin. I actually liked Wesco, and
Oh
Wesco,
yeah.
I believe, got signed by the Titans. I remember when he was added from the Jets. I didn't really get it, but I liked his blocking. And we'll talk about a little bit more what the Bears did because, like we said last episode, what we do on these is we're going to break down the current state of it, break down the big names, then talk about the backups, over unders, kind of fun little game. And then we'll be talking, did we get better at the position? But I think overall, though, like we didn't necessarily lose too much just from a overall depth perspective. But PayPal, let's get into the man because now we've added Robert Tonyan, and then we've added a couple other people that we'll break down with the backups, right? Robert Burns, Stephen Carlson. We still have Jake Tonges, Chase Allen. And then the starters are the same: Cole Kmet, Khari Blasingame. But let's talk a little bit more about Cole Kmet. What do you have to say about Cole Kmet going into year 4, contract year this season?
Man, Brad, I'm optimistic. I'm not too worried about the contract year. I think that's always kind of overhyped in the media. There's some players where it really resonates. I don't think Cole Kmet's really ever thinking that of, oh, I gotta play for my contract. He's all about the team and helping his team out. So I think he's off to hearts. This should be his breakout year, Brad. I know we kind of say it, we've said it kind of years prior, but this has to be it. I mean, he's in this new offense for 2 years now. He's been with Justin Fields for a long enough time where he should be able to build that chemistry. He finished the season with 2 touchdowns. The last 2 games he had 2 touchdowns. So he ended the season hot. He ended with a bang, and especially after 2 seasons ago where he couldn't even find the end zone. He had 600 yards, but 0 touchdowns. So I have him high on my list, Brad.
Okay. Yeah, and so I wanted to ask you this. What is a successful season for Cole Kmet in your book?
Yeah, I honestly, it's kind of those crucial receptions is kind of what I think of it as, is like those 3rd and 10s, like those 3rd and 5s. Like, is Justin Fields gonna hold like Cole Kmet? Like, is he gonna throw it to him in these critical situations where we need a first down, we need to get a touchdown in the red zone? Is he using him and in these dire situations where you need to have that connection with him as a receiver? I think he's already made himself as a great blocker already, and kind of has showed us that he actually thoroughly enjoys it. But it's kind of having that Justin Fields and Cole Kmet connection solidified this year.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. And I want to just shed some more on like what you said about just him blocking, right? Because I think that's a very underrated part of what a tight end does. Because like the age of fantasy football, everyone wants to talk about like the fantasy points that you get. And PFF, they had him graded as his run blocking grade was 6. I did like a 50% snap share. He had the 6th best run blocking grade out of tight ends in the NFL at a 65.1 run block grade, according to PFF, and overall had the 11th best out of, when you split it by 50%, which was around like a little over 200 snaps, 67.6 overall grade, which was 11th best. So the big thing I think for me is he's just a good tight end. He's what you want at the position. And I love how you said like his area of success, because I think that's going to be the big piece. If he is a true part of this offense, that's what we've really got to see here. And we talked about this before. We hope that he gets re-signed because he seems to really he was kind of in his zone towards the end of the season. I wish I would have grabbed the stats for what he did at the end of the season, but it seemed at the end he started kind of getting his stride and looking more like that tight end.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you remember that 3-game stretch? He had 5 touchdowns. He started out with getting 1. Or like finally, he got a touchdown, you know?
He's like, I'll get some
And then I was
more.
like, all right, I'll do it again. That was easy. 2, 2. And then it was like, that was awesome. And I think that was such a big confidence boost for him. And then
Yeah.
also just for us, like being this offensive, like, yeah, now they can utilize him in this offense as a reliable receiver where it seemed like before he was kind of lost or we weren't really using him as a number one. Like I remember we're kind of questioning, like, was he number one? You know, like last year, we're like, is he going to develop into it? And I think he has. You know.
And I think too, because you bring that up, it seemed like he was also in a lot of max protect situations last year at the very beginning. Like,
Mhm.
remember how many times did the Bears call only 3 people running routes and then everyone else was back in blocking? And then they changed it because of what Justin Fields was doing. And honestly, we ran more I formation, it felt like at the beginning of the season, and then we switched it up because of what Getsy drew up with more running Justin Fields. So Cole Kmet does seem to be kind of this good fit that can help out. And one thing that I do love, because Philip was asking about O-line depth, right? I think also if like an O lineman goes down, or let's just say Darnell Wright isn't off to a hot start, I love having Cole Kmet out there because of the blocking. Very good blocker. I want him receiving, but what I like is he's smart enough and disciplined enough as a blocker to kind of hit, do a little rub, and then run out and get a route. But let's keep on moving on. Let's go to the big acquisition. One of my favorite, this is actually one of my favorite signings that the Bears had. He was on the top of my free agent list, not because he's like the best player in the world, but because he was such a bargain. Robert Tonyan, low end tight end one, not from a fantasy perspective, but a low end starter, started 4 years for the Packers. But the Bears get him at $2.65 million on a 1-year deal. He's 6'5", 240, and going into his 6th season out of Indiana State. He's 29 years old. Also, fun fact, Cole Kmet, 24 years old going into his 4th season. Insanely young. And Robert Tonyan last year, 470 yards as opposed to the 530 that Cole Kmet had, and had 53 receptions as opposed to Kmet, which I think had 50. So he still had some good production. And what I love about this, like I said, cheap deal for someone who is a high, like a good tight end too, that also reminds me of like a, Dr. Thunder, like the off-brand Dr. Pepper. He's like
Oh,
Dr.
yeah.
Thunder version of Austin Hooper, where he finds the hole in the zone very well. He's not beating man coverage, but he understands zone concepts, so he can find the pockets and usually is a pretty good, reliable red zone target. And yeah, he's got the experience in Getsy's system. Everything that we're hearing, he's just a good dude. I love this signing through and through, and I think it makes a very, very good duo at the tight end position.
Yeah, I kind of have that lasting effect of I still think of him in 2020 when he kind of broke out and had I think he was
Yep.
still like, he's kind of still off and on with the Packers, like you'd kind of ride the bench, you'd come in, whatever. And then he had that season where he had 11 touchdowns, 586 yards. Like he just went off and it was like, who the heck is this guy? My roommate like went to high school with him, so he's going all crazy and all that. But yeah, he's definitely gonna help in the passing game. My worry is, can we kind of help him kind of develop into a blocker in the run game? Because yeah, he had a
Agreed.
46.3 run block grade last year, which I mean we just named off Cole Kmet, and he was one of the best. So that's something I'm looking for improvement because, like, with the questionability of Chase Claypool right now, Brad, I think we
Yeah,
might have to be playing two tight end sets more this year with like who's going to be that other receiver, like he might Tonyan might have to be coming in a lot more and run for the run game and the pass game. So it would be awesome to get his versatility up to help in both ends of the field.
I do agree. And it's like we said last time when we addressed the Claypool rumors, right? They are rumors, they are murmurs coming from honestly a reliable source in Sylvie. And yeah, right. the best way to change the narrative is to change the narrative. So hopefully Claypool can change that. Otherwise, yeah, Tonyan might be seeing a lot more time, but it's great to have that depth. I never really was a big Griffin fan, but Tonyan coming in, really like that signing. But let's go to the guy that you took as your tight end in our 11 on 11 fantasy draft. The man, Khari Blasingame. What? And also, I didn't realize this until putting together these graphics. 0 carries and 0 receptions. PayPal. So he signed the 2-year, $2.65 million deal, dirt cheap, which is great. But is he going to get involved in the offense is he going to get a catch? Is he going to get a run?
I could have sworn we had him on a wheel route. It must have been taken back. I could have, yeah. But yeah, you're definitely right. He had 1 target. Maybe he got tipped or something. Yeah, it was this. Yeah, preseason. Yeah, it must have been preseason because he definitely did well there. But I don't know. I love him, Brad. You just see how well our running game works when he's in the game. Obviously, I couldn't see him playing as tight end, but that fullback spot like does fit perfectly. Like he's a big, fast, plays the pass. He's a good receiver for a fullback.
Yeah,
he can go out wide. He's not afraid to just be a pass blocker, just be a run blocker. He can get out there. So I'm hoping he is more involved because when the ball's in his hand, he's kind of a bowling ball, but not a what was that? Tolbert from Carolina that one year.
Oh yeah.
He's not like a Tolbert where he's just bouncing back and forth, but he has a little bit more speed to him and power. So I hope we do use him a little bit more.
I want to see it too, and I think where he might have gotten some of his catches taken away was it seemed when we're doing bootlegs, it's not like a bootleg where the fullback follows. It's more of I was going to say Tonyan Kmet, right? Like Kmet kind of follows more so than Blasingame, but I do like the depth. I just overall having a fullback that you can rely on, and you could just have different sets out there of just good people out there to play. So
yeah,
I'm fine with it. I want to see more, and I think that Justin Fields might just need to change, like throwing it with a better offensive line. He should be able to be used more, so he's not just always a blocker trying to get backside blocks and other things like that.
Yeah, it's always kind of with with the league with like kind of offenses that it's kind of the copycat league. Everyone was kind of shifting away from using fullbacks, and we kept one. And now that fullbacks are kind of a rare position, coaches aren't game planning against fullbacks like every week. When they face the Bears, like, oh crap, they got a fullback. Now we have to change. Like our players aren't used to adjusting to these formations that have a fullback in them. So I think that's a pro in itself of kind of throwing other defenses and coaches kind of off. It's like, what are these formations?
Yeah. No, exactly. It's like to switch things up like that. I absolutely I like it, right? And I like what they have out there. And let's actually switch over to some of these backups because you talk about switching. I don't think that there's a better person out there that like switches both sides than Jake Tonges, right? When we look at backups, and I remember getting his autograph last year with my kids and being like, oh man, who the heck is this guy? And ends up surprising everybody and making the team. Jake Tonges plays fullback, plays tight end, and I do think he's kind of like our Ben Broniker, right? From the back in the day where he's always the third tight end. You kind of don't expect him to start anytime soon, but he's going to give you good depth, good solid depth out there. So Tonges or even like a Chase Allen, I think they're going to kind of be rock solid as the backups. But when we talk about like a Robert Burns, a Stephen Carlson, I think that those guys are more so, is there something there, right? You bring in Robert Burns. For those that don't know, he's a undrafted rookie out of UConn who is a fullback. So I like the idea of the Bears bringing in a backup fullback just in case, because fullbacks you can find anywhere. And if you find someone, maybe Burns is great, but it's just more of a, let's just kind of fill out the roster, see some of these undrafted people. If they turn into something, then awesome. But I really can't see anybody taking Tonges or Chase Allen's job away from them as the backups.
Yeah, Stephen Carlson. I was I was looking him up for a little bit, and another Ivy League tight end. What's up with us getting Ivy League tight ends? And they're always just the backups that never really play. I mean, I think Jesper Horsted was also from Princeton. And then, yeah, you mentioned Brent Broniker, Mr. Harvard himself.
Yep.
We're just getting all these Ivy League guys, but they never really pan out. So we should probably stop doing that.
I mean, maybe in like the backups, that right? They make the good backups, the grinders that are out there. Yeah. So I think that overall it's just solid, right? You have young players that you don't have to be paying a lot for, and then you have your main starter and your number 2 tight end. So I think very fine with what they have at that position. But PayPal, let's get into these over-unders. And I'm going to start because last time you started, and I regretted it because I wrote the questions. This is still hard for me, but I just wanted to go first with this. So the over-unders are purely based off of Cole Kmet. So for those watching, you can kind of comment what you think. So the first over-under that goes to me is yards at 600 yards. So last year had about 530. And is this over-under? And PayPal, what goes through my head is I actually think he's going to be right around 600. Now, if we're doing the math, I think that Justin Fields is going to get more passing yards. And I think that you combine Mooney and DJ Moore, I think they're going to combine for like 2,300, let's just say, right? I think that they could both potentially have 1,000-yard seasons. So if Kmet is around 600 plus, you're talking about 3,000 right there, which has been difficult, right? It means that we would be passing it a little bit more when you factor in everybody else. I think he's going to be right around 600. I'm going to go a little over. And I know a lot of people are actually projecting less. I was seeing from a fantasy football perspective, but I'm going to go a smidge over because I think he's going to be right around that number. But PayPal,
nice. Yeah.
You have receptions at 60. I don't know if this is too easy for you or too difficult. What are you thinking about 60 receptions? He had 50 last year.
Yeah, he had 50 last year, and then he had 60 the year before. So, man, the reason why it's hard for me is I don't think he's not going to be as involved, but I just think I'm like, okay, now we have kind of a second tight end that he can actually be involved in the passing game. Last year, we didn't have a single one. Like Cole Kmet, I think, was the only tight end that was really game planned to actually catch passes from Justin Fields last year. Ryan Griffin just kind of caught it just because he was the only one open, and he was probably just like a check down route. So with that being said, I'm kind of up and down. It's right around that 60. I'm going to say he's going to get like 58. So I'm going to have to go under.
Really? I was expecting you to go over.
I was really tempting to go over because last year he did start off with two games in a row with zero receptions, and he kind of worked his way up to starting to get 3, 4, and then he started getting 6, 7 near the end of the season. But it's just hard. I really think Tonyan's going to get some involvement in the offense this year, especially with his ties with Lou Getsy. So he's going to get some of that share in the passing game. So not saying he's going to be worse, just not all the love.
Yeah, I could also see it going the opposite way for yards and receptions, right? Because him being maybe he's more of a check down, and then Fields is looking more downfield for these wide receivers, right? That's what might also end up happening too. But let's go over to touchdowns. I have 7 touchdowns. That's what he had last year. I'm actually going to go under. Maybe we should have flipped it because I feel like we would have been more positive with it. But I'm actually going under. 7 is a lot. And I think part of this is just getting more people involved. I think that's the big piece. And you talked about this small stretch where he rattled off the touchdowns. I think with having Robert Tonyan in, having a DJ Moore, having more Chase Claypool involved, I think that he's just going to be spreading the love a lot more than he was before. And that's why I think that ultimately I think it's probably going to be like 5 or 6, but I think it's going to be slightly less. I don't think he reaches 7 touchdowns overall.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say, like, with, he was kind of the more reliable target near the end of the season just because Mooney was out. And then it's like, who else has Justin Fields, been getting this chemistry built with? I mean, it was just like only Cole Kmet. So what is he going to throw to EQ or Dante Pettis or something? So that's something we definitely have to take into consideration of how much he's going to get used. And it's going to kind of play in this next one, Brad, of, his fantasy football rank is
top 10
or under 10
or not top 10. What do you say?
Yeah. Now, I gotta say top 10, Brad. I gotta say top 10. He's gonna be over top 10 just because I do think with kind of all the stuff we have said of kind of, he might not get as many shares because we got a better offense and offensive targets around him. I think Justin Fields is going to be all more comfortable, and a lot of these passing plays we had last year that just ended in sacks, incomplete passes, throwaways are going to be completed passes to these receivers and tight ends like Cole Kmet. So I think he's going to reach top 10 and pick him up in your fantasy leagues.
I hope so too. I want to see him get top 10, especially depending on when we pay him and what we pay him, because he should get that. I think that the bigger question is going to be more on Justin Fields, what he does with the tight end position, because I mean, you look at Jeremy Ruckert at the tight end from Ohio State, didn't really get yards, but he got touchdowns. So is that going to be something that he's going to be trying to target more with Kmet? And it's going to be interesting because I do hear out of mini camp and OTAs, there's times where Kmet's open, but he's not looking Kmet's way. So it will be interesting. He's definitely talented, and hopefully he does kind of take that next step. But let's talk about, did we get better? And PayPal, I think this is pretty easy. When we're just scanning, you mentioned it, expecting Cole Kmet to kind of take another jump this year. And also, when you talk about who we lost and who we gained, we have another year of Tonges and Chase Allen. Do I expect them to take a huge jump? No. But do I expect them to get slightly better, more comfortable? Yes. And my take is I just think that Robert Tonyan is an upgrade over Ryan Griffin. And I mean, PayPal, do you agree?
Yeah, I think that, that's all we can really say. And I think I think having Robert Tonyan helps Cole Kmet. Like I don't know if we've really mentioned that yet, but it's how, he can maybe help Cole Kmet with the Lugetzi offense, or help Cole Kmet kind of do what you talk about, how Robert Tonyan just kind of settles in the zones, and maybe he can teach Cole how to do that, because Cole's really good at running routes. Hasn't really learned how to settle in zones and find the openings. So
that's a good point.
I think honestly, just he can help Cole a lot just by his knowledge. I mean, he's 29, Cole's still 24, which is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that too, because I was putting more graphics together for the cornerback show too, and you just see the ages on some of these people. They're 24, and then you have like Bayless, who was a 25-year-old rookie, and it's just absolutely absurd to know that he still has so much more football left to play and so much more to learn, honestly. And it's definitely got better. It's a small group that we're looking at, and I think overall, like, the big question, right? Whenever you're analyzing a position group, is there a realistic regression, like a regression to the mean, right? Not a Madden regression where you literally get worse. Just does your play drop off? I don't think that we're going to see that with Cole Kmet. Maybe he might start slow, but I think it's going to be more of the question of, can he start out hot like he did towards the end of the season and have a full season of some of that great play? Then I think that people are going to start talking about Cole Kmet as a top 10 tight end, or the people that know football, because they're talking about his blocking ability and his catching ability as some of the stuff to just be really excited about with him.
Yeah, but he's definitely a good-looking prospect, Brad, and I hope he's doing well. He's got everything looking for him. I mean, he's great with the media. He's like super strong, fast, just everything about him. You really hope he can stay as a Bear and have a great season this year. So
perfect. So that does it for the tight ends, the fullbacks. And I do want to just get to one question, though, that we had out in the comments since we're done kind of recapping the tight ends. But Philip was asking about, he's saying that he kind of wants to see Poles sign George Fant, the tackle from the Jets, adding a veteran tackle, he says, and have more depth at the position. That's an interesting thought because, I mean, George Fant is 31, so he's a little up there in age. PayPal, do you have any thoughts? Because
what do we have to lose? You know, that's my part. What do we have to lose? Our money? Wait, we have the most money in the league, right? You know, cap space in the league. So what do we have to lose?
Totally. And I know too, like, I know that Ryan Poles is doing, like, he's waiting on it. He's waiting to jump on players. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I want you to sign someone. I want you to do something because we need it, right? We need to do something. I think overall, when I think of George Fant, though, I think that he's going to be someone similar to like a Riley Reif, where the Bears are going to be looking at more into training camp, where they need to ask the question when they look at, I think it's going to be down to two things. They're going to look at Darnell Wright and say, is he able to start day one in the NFL? Because if not, let's maybe bring in someone like a Fant, right? Bring in George Fant to then play that right tackle until he feels ready. Because yet again, rookies are not guaranteed things, even if they're drafted in the top 10, a la Evan Neal last year for the Giants. And I think they might do something like that. And the other option is they don't like what's going on with Larry Borom. He needs to drop weight. And if he doesn't drop weight, the Bears could just say, well, screw it. You're not going to fit our system. We're going to bring in a veteran that we can rely on. And I think that those are like the two avenues where signing a George Fant might make sense.
Yeah, I completely agree, Brad. Yeah, he's gonna be an addition, and literally we have so much money to spend, and like, why not just do like a 1-year deal, at least try him out and like help the depth, like you was saying, just help the depth. And with Larry Borom, yeah, we just don't know yet. So
I think that's going to be the big question. But PayPal, we're going to answer more questions on Sunday night. We're going to be going live and breaking down the cornerback. So talking a little bit about Tyreek Stevenson, anything about Terrell Smith. Should we be looking out for him? But you know what to do. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. For those out on YouTube, comment whatever you'd like. If you have any advice for me as best man too, you can let me know down in the comments too. But thank you all so much. We appreciate you. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you